So good day everyone. So today I will be discussing Article 8.30, which is the network powered broadband communication systems. So 8.30.1 general, 8.30.1.1 scope. This article covers network powered broadband communication systems that provide any combination of voice, audio, video, data and interactive services through a network interface unit. So 8.30.1.2 definitions: abandoned network powered broadband communication cables. Installed network powered broadband communications cable is not terminated at equipment other than a connector and not identified for future use with tag. Block is a square or portion of a city, town or village enclosed by streets including the alleys, so enclosed but not to any street. Exposed to accidental contact, a circuit in such a position that in case of failure or supports or insulations, contacts with another circuit may result. Fault protection device, an electronic device that is intended for the protection of personnel and functions under fault conditions such as network powered broadband communication cable, short or open circuit, to limit the current or voltage or both for a low power network powered broadband communication circuit and provide acceptable protection from electric shock. So, para siyang GFCI. Pero, kinakabit siya sa Network Powered Broadband Communication Cable. Uh, Network Interface Unit, NIU, a device that converts a broadband signal into component, voice, audio, video, data, and interactive service signals and provide isolation between the network power and the premises. Next one is signal circuits. These devices often contain primary and secondary protectors. Next one is network powered broadband communication circuit. The circuit extending from the communications utility serving terminal or tap up to and including the NIU. Point of entrance, the point within a building at which the network powered broadband communication cable emerges from an external wall, from a concrete floor slab, from rigid metal conduit, or from intermediate metal conduit. So next one is 8.30.1.3 other articles. Circuits and equipment shall comply with 8.30.1.3 A through G. So the first one is A, hazardous or classified locations. Network powered broadband communication circuits and equipment installed in a location that is classified in accordance with 5.0.1.5 and 5.5.1.5 shall comply with applicable requirements of Chapter 5. B. Wiring ducts for dust, loose stock, or vapor removal. The requirements of 3.0.1.22a shall apply. C. Equipment in other space used for environmental air. The requirements of 3.0.1.22 C 3 shall apply. D. Installation and use. The requirement of 1.10.1.3b shall apply. And E. Output circuits, as appropriate for the services provided, the output circuits derived from the network interface unit shall comply with the requirements of the following. Number 1 is installation of communication circuits. You can see it on part 8.0.5. Installation of community antenna, television and radio distribution circuits, part 8.20.5. Number 3 is installation of optical fiber cables from part 7.750. 4 is installation of class 2 and class 3 circuits, part 7.25.3. 5 is installation of power limited fire alarm circuits, part 7.60.3. F is the protection against physical damage. The requirements of 3.0.1.4 shall apply. Next one is 8.30.1.5 power limitation. Network powered broadband communication system shall be classified as having low or medium power sources as specified in 8.30.1.15 1 or 2. So the number one is sources shall be classified as defined in table 8.30.1.5. Number two is direct current power sources exceeding 150 volts to ground but no more than 200 volts to ground, with the current to ground limited to 10 milliampere DC that meet the current and power limitation for medium power sources in table 8.30.1.5, which will we see later, shall be classified as medium power sources. Next one is 8.30.1.21, access to electrical equipment behind panels designed to allow access. Access to electrical equipment shall not be denied by an accumulation of network-powered broadband communications cable that prevent removal of panels and covers and the likes, etc., including suspended ceiling panels. So next one is the table 8.30.1.15, limitation for network powered broadband communication systems. So network power source circuit voltage 0 to 100, that means it is a low power broadband communication systems. 0 to 150 naman is for the medium power. So these are the classifications of low and medium. So next one is 8.30.1.24, mechanical execution of work. Network power broadband communication circuits and equipment shall be installed in a neat and workmanlike manner. Cables installed and exposed on the surface of the ceilings and sidewalls shall be supported by the building structure in such a manner that the including such a manner that the cable will not be damaged by normal building use. Such cable shall be secured by hardware, including straps, staples, cable ties, hangers, or similar fittings designed and installed so as to not damage the cable. The installation shall also conform to the 3.0.1.4 ADEF and 3.0.1.11 non-metallic cable ties and other non-metallic cables, accessories used to secure and support cables in other spaces used for environmental air or the plenums shall be listed as having low smoke and heat release properties in accordance with 8.0.6.1. 8.30.1.24 1.25 rather, abandoned cables. The accessible portion of abandoned network powered broadband cable shall be removed. Where cables are identified for future use with a tag, the tag shall be sufficient durability to withstand the environment involved. Next one is 8.30.1.26, spread of fire or products of combustions. Installation of network power broadband cables in hollow spaces, vertical shafts, and ventilation of air handling ducts shall be made so that the possible spread of fire or products of combustion will not be substantially increased. Openings around penetrations of network power broadband cables through fire resistant walls, partitions, floors, or ceilings shall be fire stopped using approved methods to maintain the fire resistant ratings. 8. Next one is 8.30 part 8.30.2, cables outside and entering buildings. 8.30.2.1, entrance cables. Network powered broadband communication cables located outside and entering buildings shall comply with 8.30.2.1 A and B. So for medium power circuits, medium power network powered broadband communication circuits located outside and entering buildings shall be installed using type BMU and type BM or type BMR network powered broadband communication medium power cables. Letter B is low power circuits. Low power network powered broadband communication circuits located outside and entering buildings shall be installed using type BLU or type BLX low power network powered broadband communication cables. Cables shown in table 8.30.5.45, which will be flash later on shall be permitted to substitute. Exceptions are outdoor community antenna televisions and radio distribution system coaxial cables installed prior to January 1, 2000 and installed in accordance with Article 8.20 shall be permitted for low power type network powered broadband communication circuits. So the next one is 8.30.2.5 overhead or aerial cables. Overhead aerial network powered broadband communication cables shall comply with 8.30.2.5 A through G. So A is on poles and in span, where network powered broadband communication cables and electric light or power conductors are supported by the same pole or are run parallel to each other in span. The condition described in 8.30.2.5 A1 to A4 shall be met. So 1 is relative location. Where practicable, the network powered broadband communication cables shall be located below the electric light or power conductors. Number 2 is attachment to cross arms. Network powered broadband communications cable shall not be attached to a cross arm that carries electric light or power conductors. 3 is climbing space. The climbing space through network powered broadband communication wires and cables shall comply with the requirements of 2.25.1.14 D. 4 is the clearance. Lead-in or overhead drop network powered broadband communication cables from a pole or other support, including the point of initial attachment to a building or structure, shall be kept away from electric light power, class 1 or non-power limited fire alarm circuits conductors so as to avoid the possibility of accidental contact. So, exception is where proximity to electric light power class 1 or non-power limited fire alarm circuit conductors cannot be avoided. The installation shall provide clearances of not less than 300 mm from electric light power class 1 or non-power limited fire alarm circuit conductors. The clearance requirement shall apply to all points along the drop and it shall increase to 1000 mm at the pole. So B is above roofs. Network power broadband communication cable shall have a vertical clearance of not less than 2500 mm from all points of roofs above which they pass. Exception: network power broadband communication cable shall not be required to have a vertical clearance of 2500 mm above auxiliary buildings such as garages and the like. Another exception is a reduction in clearance above only the overhanging portions of the roof to not less than 400 mm shall be permitted if 1. Not more than 1200 mm of the broadband communication drums cable passed above the roof overhang, and 2. They are terminated through the roof raceways or support. Last exception is where the roof has a slope of not less than 100 mm in 300 mm. A reduction in clearance to not less than 900 mm shall be permitted. So C is clearance from ground. Overhead aerial spans of network powered broadband communication cable shall conform to not less than the following: 2900 mm above finished grade sidewalks or from any platform or protection from which they might be reached and accessible to pedestrian only. 3500 mm over residential properties, driveways, and those commercial areas not subject to truck traffic. 4700 mm over public streets, alleys, roads, parking areas subject to truck traffic, driveways on other than residential property, and other land traversed by vehicles such as cultivated, grazing forest, and orchard. D. Over pools, clearance of network powered broadband communication cables in any direction from the water level. Each pool based on diving platform or anchored drop shall comply with those clearances in 6.80.1.9. E. Final spans. Final spans of network powered broadband communication cables without an outer jacket shall be permitted to be attached to the building, but they shall be kept not less than 100 mm from windows that are designed to be opened, doors, porches, balconies, ladders, stairs, fire escapes, or similar locations. Overhead aerial network powered broadband communication cable shall not be installed beneath openings through which the material might be removed, such as openings in farm and commercial buildings. It shall not be installed where they obstruct entrance to these building openings. F. Between buildings, network powered broadband communication cables extending between buildings or structures and also the supports or attachment fixtures shall be identified as suitable for outdoor aerial application. It shall have sufficient strength to withstand the loads to which they may be subjected. On buildings, where attached to buildings, network power broadband communication cables shall be securely fastened in such a manner that they are separated from other conductors in accordance with 8.30.2.5 G1 through G4. So G1 is electric light or power. The network powered broadband communications cable shall have a separation of at least 100 mm from electric light, power, class 1 or non-power limited farm alarm circuit conductors not in the raceway or cable, or be permanently separated from conductors of other systems by a continuous and firmly fixed non-conductor in addition to the insulations of the wire. So number 2, other communication systems. Network powered broadband communications cable shall be installed so that there will be no unnecessary interference in the maintenance of separate systems. In no case shall the conductor's messenger strand or equipment of one system cause aberration to the conductor's cables, messenger strand, or equipment of any other systems. 3. Lightning conductors. Where practicable, a separation of at least 1800 mm shall be maintained between any network power broadband communication cables and lightning conductors. Light, uh, Number 4 is protection from damage. Network powered broadband communication cables attached to buildings or structures and located within 2500 mm of finished grade shall be protected by enclosure, raceways, or other approved means. So section 8.30.2.8, underground network power broadband communication cables entering buildings shall comply with 8.30.2.a, A through D. A is underground system with electric light, power, class 1 or non-power limited fire alarm circuit conductors. Underground network power broadband communications cables in a duct, pedestal, handhole enclosures or manhole that contains electric light, power conductors or non-power limited fire alarm circuit conductors or class 1 circuit shall be in a section permanently separated from such conductors by means of suitable barrier. B is direct buried cables. Direct buried network powered broadband communication cables shall be separated by at least 300 millimeters from conductors of any light, power, or non-power limited fire alarm circuit conductors or class 1 circuits. C is mechanical protection. Direct buried cable, conduit, or other raceway shall be installed to meet the minimum cover requirements of table 8.30.2.8. In addition, direct buried cables emerging from the ground shall be protected by enclosures, raceways, or other approved means extending from the minimum cover distance required by the table 8.30.2.8 below grade to a point at least 2500 mm above finished grade. In no case shall the protection be required to exceed 450 mm below finished grade. Types BMU and BLU direct buried cables emerging from the ground shall be installed in RMC or rigid metal conduit, or IMC intermediate metal conduit and rigid non-metallic conduit or other approved means extending from the minimum cover distance required by the table 8.30.2.8 below grade to the point of entrance. D is cables located under the pool or within the area extending 1500 mm horizontally from the inside wall of the pool shall meet those clearances and requirements specified in 6.80.1.11. So this is the table 8.30.2.8c, or the network power broadband communication systems minimum cover requirements. Next one is 8.30.2.10, metallic entrance conduit grounding. Metallic conduit containing network powered broadband communication entrance cable shall be connected by a bonding conductor or grounding electrode conductor to a grounding electrode in accordance with 8.30 section 8.30.4.1b. So 8.30.3 or part 8.30.3 protection, section 8.30.3.1 primary electrical protection. So the application is a primary electrical protection shall be provided on all network power broadband communications conductors that are neither grounded nor interrupted and are run partly or entirely in aerial cable not confined within a block. Also, primary electrical protection shall be provided on all aerial or underground network power broadband communication conductors that are neither grounded or nor interrupted and are located within the block containing the building, serve as to exposed to landing or accidental contact with electric light or power conductors operating at over 300 volts. So the number one is for fuseless primary protectors. Fuseless type primary protectors shall be permitted where power fault currents on all protected conductors in the cables are safely limited to a value no greater than the current carrying capacity of the primary protector and of the primary protector bonding conductor or grounding electrode conductor. Number 2 is fused primary protectors where the requirements listed in 8.30.3.1 A1 are not met. Fused type primary protectors shall be used. Fused type primary protectors shall consist of an arrestor connected between each conductor to be protected and ground, a fuse in series with each conductor to be protected in an appropriate mounting arrangement. Fused primary protector terminals shall be marked to indicate line, instrument, and ground as applicable. Location of primary protector where required shall comply with B1, B2, or B3. So B1 is a listed primary protector shall be applied on each network power broadband communication cable external to and on the network side of the network interface unit. Shall be an integral part of and contained in network interface unit. The network interface unit shall be listed as being suitable for application with network powered broadband communication system and shall have an external marking indicating that it contains primary electrical protection. The number 3 is primary protectors shall be provided on the derived circuits output side of the NIU, and the combination of the NIU and the protector shall be listed as being suitable for application with network power broadband communication systems. C is hazardous or classified locations. The primary protector or equipment providing primary protection function shall not be located in any hazardous or classified location as defined in section 5.01.5 and 5.5.1.5 or in the vicinity of easily ignitable material. 8.30.3.4 grounding or interruption of metallic members or of network power broadband communication cables. Network power communication cables entering buildings or attaching to buildings shall comply with 8.30.3.4 A or B. So for entering buildings, in installation where the network power enters the building, the shield shall be grounded in accordance with section 8.30.4.1. And metallic members of the cables not used for communication or powering shall be grounded in accordance with 8.30.4.1 or interrupted by an insulated joint or equivalent device. The grounding or interruption shall be as close as practicable to the point of entrance. B is terminating outside the building. So where this is terminated outside the building, the shield shall be grounded in accordance with 8.30.4.1 and metallic members of the cables not used for communication powering shall be grounded in accordance with the 8.34.1 or interrupted by an insulating joint or equivalent device. The grounding or interruption shall be as close as practicable to the point of entrance attachment of the NIU. Uh, Part 8.30.4 or the grounding methods. Section 8.30.4.1 cables, network or NIU and primary protector bonding and grounding. NIU containing protectors. NIUs with metallic enclosure, primary protectors, and metallic members of the network communication cables intended to be bonded or grounded shall be connected as specified in 8.30.4.1a through D. So A is bonding conductor or grounding electrode conductor. So the installation of the bonding conductor or grounding conductor shall be listed and shall be permitted to be insulated, covered, or bare. Number 2 is material. The bonding conductor or grounding electrode shall be copper or other corrosion-resistant conductive material, stranded or solid. Size shall not be smaller than 2 mm square and shall have a current carrying capacity not less than the of the grounded metallic members and protecting conductors of the network power bond by communication. The bonding conductor or grounding electrode conductor shall not be required to exceed 14 mm square. The length is the bonding conductor or grounding electrode shall be as short as practicable. In 1 and 2 family dwellings, the bonding conductor shall be as short as practicable, not to exceed 6,000 mm in length. Run in straight line. The bonding conductor should be run in a straight line as practicable. Physical protection. Bonding conductors and grounding electrode conductors should be protected when exposed to physical damage. Where the bonding conductor or grounding electrode is installed in a metal raceway, both ends of the metal raceway shall be bonded to the contained conductor or to the same terminal or electrode to which the bonding conductor or grounding electrode conductor is connected. B is electrode. The bonding conductor or grounding electrode shall be connected in accordance with 8.34.1b1 to B3 in buildings or structure with an inter-system bonding termination. So if the building has an inter-system bonding termination as required by 2.50.5.5, the bonding conductor shall be connected to the inter-system bonding termination. In buildings or structure with grounding means, if an inter-system bonding termination is established, 2.50.94 shall apply. If the building or structure has no inter-system bonding termination, the bonding conductor or grounding electrode shall be connected to the nearest accessible location on one of the following. So sa A is the building or structure grounding electrode system. B is the grounded interior metal water piping system within 1,500 mm from its point of entrance to the building. C is the power service accessible means external to enclosure using the options identified. Exceptions are D is the non-flexible metallic power raceway. E is the service equipment enclosure. F is the grounding electrode conductor or the grounding electrode conductor metal enclosure of the power service or the grounding electrode conductor or grounding electrode of a building or structure disconnecting means that is connected to an electrode as covered in 2.50.2.13. So a bonding device is intended to provide a termination point for the bonding conductor, shall not interfere with the opening of an equipment enclosure. The bonding device shall be mounted on non-removable parts. The bonding device shall not be mounted on a door or cover, even if the door or cover is non-removable. For the purposes of this section, the mobile home service equipment or the mobile home disconnecting means as described in 8.30.3.4 shall be considered accessible. Three is in buildings or structure without an inter-system bonding termination or grounding means. The building has no inter-system bonding termination or grounding means as described. The grounding electric conductor shall be connected to either of the following. So sa A is to any of the individual grounding electrodes. B, if the building or structure has no inter-system bonding termination or has no grounding means as described, to any of the individual grounding electrodes as described in 2.53.3 A7 to 88, or to a ground route pipe not less than 1.5 millimeter in length and 12.7 millimeter diameter, driven where practicable into permanently damped earth and separated from lightning conductors as covered in 8.0.2.10 at least 1,800 millimeter from the electrodes or the system. Steam hot water pipes or lightning protection system conductors shall be employed as grounding electrodes for protectors. NIUs with integral protection grounded metallic members, NIUs with the metallic enclosures and other equipment. C is electrode connection. Connection to grounding electrodes shall comply with 2.50.3.1. D is bonding of electrodes. A bonding jumper that's smaller than 14mm square copper or equivalent shall be connected between the network power broadband communication system grounding electrode and the power grounding electrode system at the building or structures where separate electrodes are used. 8.30.4.7 Grounding and bonding at mobile homes. Grounding shall comply with 8.30.4.7 A1 or A2. A1 is where there is no mobile home service located within 9,000mm or 9 meter of the exterior wall of the mobile home it serves. The network power broadband communication cables shield network power broadband communication cable metallic members not used for communications or powering network NIUs and primary protector grounding terminals shall be connected to a grounding electrode conductors or grounding electrode in accordance with 8.30.4.1. 2 is where there is no mobile home disconnecting means grounded in accordance with 2.50.2.13 and located within 9,000mm of the exterior wall of the mobile home it serves. The network power broadband communications cable shield network power broadband communication cables metallic members not used for communication or powering NIU and primary protector grounding shall be connected to a grounding electrode in accordance with 8.30.4.1 B3. Bonding the network power broadband cable grounding terminal NIU grounding terminal if present and the primary protector grounding shall be bonded together with a copper bonding conductor not smaller than 3.5mm square. The network power broadband communication cables grounding terminal NIU grounding terminal primary protector grounding terminal or grounding electrode shall be bonded to the metal frame or available grounding terminal of the mobile home with a copper bonding conductor not smaller than 3.5mm square under any of the following conditions. Where 1. Where there is no mobile home service equipment or disconnecting means. 2. Where the mobile home is supplied by cord and plug. So next one is 8.30.5 installation methods within buildings. 8.30.5.1 raceways and cables routing assemblies for network power broadband communication cables. A. Type of raceways. Low powered network broadband communication cables shall be permitted to be installed in any raceways that complies with either 8.30.5.1 A1 or A2, and then cable routing assemblies installed in compliance with 8.30.5.1 C. Medium power network broadband communication cables shall be permitted to be installed in any raceways that complies with 8.30.5.1 A1. So 1 is raceway recognized in chapter 3. Low and medium power network power broadband communication shall be permitted to be installed in any raceways including chapter 3. The raceway shall be installed in accordance with the requirements of chapter 3. Communication raceways, low power network power broadband communication cable shall be permitted to be installed in plenum communication raceways, riser communications raceways, and general purpose communication raceways selected in accordance with table 8.0.5.45 listed in accordance with 8.06.13 and installed in accordance with 8.05.4 and 3.62.2.15 through 47 were the requirements applicable to the electrical non-metallic tubing apply. B. Raceway field for network power broadband communication cables. Raceway field for network power broadband communication shall comply with either B1 or B2. So for low power network broadband communication cables, the raceway field requirements of chapter 3 and 10 shall not apply to the lower power network power broadband communication cables. So medium power network powered broadband communication cables where medium power network powered broadband communication cables shall are installed in the raceway. The raceway field requirements of Chapter 3 and 10 shall apply. So for low power, Chapter 3 and 10 shall not apply, but medium power, Chapter 3 and 10 shall apply. C is cable routing assemblies. Lower power network power broadband combination cables shall be permitted to be installed in plenum. Cable routing assemblies, riser cable routing assemblies, and general purpose routing assemblies selected in accordance with table 8.0.5.45 listed in accordance with 8.0.1613 and installed in accordance with 8.30.5.1 and 8.0.5.4. 8.30.5.4 Installation of network powered broadband communication cables. Installation of network powered broadband communications shall comply with 8.30.5.4 A through I. Installation of raceway and cable routing assembly shall comply with 8.30.5.1 A listing. Network powered broadband communication cables installed in building shall be listed. So B. Ducts specifically fabricated for environmental air. The following cables shall be permitted. If they are directly associated with the air distribution system up to 1200 mm of type BLP, types BLP, BMR, yan, installed in raceway that installed in compliance with 3.0.1.22. C is other spaces used for environmental air or plenums. The following cables shall be permitted. 1 is type BLP, 2 type BLP installed in plenum communication raceways. 3 is type BLP installed in plenum cable routing assemblies. BLP supported by open metallic cable trace or cable tray system. 5 is type BLP, BMR, yan, that are installed in compliance with 3.0.1.22. Types BLP, BMR, BLR, BM, BL, and BLX supported by solid bottom metal cable trays with solid metal covers in other spaces for use for environmental air. So 7 is type BLP, BMR, BLR, yan, installed in plenum communication raceways, riser communication raceways, or general purpose communication raceways supported by solid bottom metal cable trays with solid metal covers in other spaces used for environmental air plenums. So sa D, riser cables in vertical runs. The following cables shall be permitted in vertical runs. So type BLP, BMR, BLR. Types BLP and BLR installed in the following: plenum, plenum cable routing, riser communications raceway, riser cable routing assemblies. E is risers, cable and inner ducts and metal raceway. Following shall apply: type BLP, BMR, BLR, BM, BL, BLX. Yan. Tapos 2 is type BLP, BLR, BL cables installed in the following: plenum communication raceways, inner duct. B raceway, riser communication raceway, inner duct. C general purpose communication raceways. F risers cable in fireproof shafts. So this following cable shall apply. Same lang din sila, may mga nadagdag lang. So yan. So sa G, same lang din sila nung nasa sa F, pero nagbago lang isa sa type sa 1. May ano lang siya, may diameter lang siya. H, yan, same lang din halos. Sa cable trace, the following cable shall be permitted to be supported by cable trace: type BLP, BMR, BLR, BM. So sa 2 types, BLP, BLR, BL, and ABC. In other locations, the following cables and raceways shall be permitted to be installed. So yan, kasama rin yung type BLP, BMR. Sa 2, type BLP, BMR, BLR, BM, BL, and BLX installed in a raceway. Sa 3 naman is BLP, BLR, BL cables installed in the following. Halos same lang din sila nung nauna. May mga dagdag lang. Sa 4, type BLX less than 10 mm in diameter. 5 is type BMU and BLU entering the building from outside and run in rigid metal conduit. or IMC, where the conduit is connected by a bonding conductor or grounding electric conductor. 6 is maximum of 15 meter within the building of type BLX, entering the cable, entering the building from outside and terminating at an IU or a primary protection location. 8.30.5.4, and installation of network power broadband communication cables and equipment shall comply with A. Separation of conductors and raceway cables, trays, boxes, enclosure, and cable routing assemblies. Sa A is low and medium power broadband communication cable should be permitted in the same raceway, cable tray, box, enclosure, or cable routing assemblies. Low power network power broadband communication circuit cables or other circuits. Low power network power broadband communication cables should be permitted in the same raceways or class routing assembly with jacketed cables of any of the following circuits. So sa class 2, class 3 remote control, signaling, and power limited circuits in compliance with parts 7.25 and 7.25.3. So sa 2 is power limited fire alarm system in compliance with 7.60. 3 is communication circuits in compliance with parts 8.0.1, 8.0.5, non-conductive and conductive optical fiber cables. Number 5 is community antennas, television, and other and radio distribution system in compliance with parts 8.20.1 and 8.20.5. So for the medium powered network power broadband communication circuit cables, the medium power shall not be permitted in cable raceways or cable routing assembly with conductors and of the following. Yan. Communication circuits parts 8.0 and 8.0.5. So sa 2, yan, conductive optical fiber cables, community antenna, television, radio distribution systems in compliance with part 8.28.1. So sa medium naman, sa D, shall not be permitted din. In class 2, class 3 remote controlling, signaling, and power limited circuits. So sa 2 naman, power limited for alarm systems in compliance with part 760. So sa low power is shall be permitted in the same raceway, pero sa mga medium powered is hindi na. So sa E naman, electric light, power class 1 non-powered broadband communication circuits cables, network powered, shall not be placed in any raceway cable trays or similar fittings with conductors of electric light, power class 1 or non power limited. Other application, network powered broadband communication cables shall be separated at least 50 mm from conductors of any light. Support of network powered broadband communication cables. The raceway shall be used for their intended purpose. The network powered broadband communication cable shall not be strapped, taped, or attached by any means of exterior any conduit. 8.30.5.45 Application of network powered broadband communication system cables. Permitted and unpermitted application of listed network powered broadband communication cable shall be as indicated in table 8.30.5.45a. The permitted application shall be subjected to the installation of requirements 8.30.2.1. The substitution for network powered broadband system cable shall be listed in 8.30.5.45b shall be permitted. So 8.30.5.51 Benson network broadband shall be made so as not to damage the cable. So ito yung 8.30.5.45 ay na binabanggit dun sa task kanina. Next one is yung B naman, cable substitution. Yan, kapag halimbawa kung wala kang BM, pwede kang gumamit ng BM, or kung wala kang BLP, pwede kang gumamit yan. Wala kang BLX, yan pwede mo gamitin. So sa 8.30.6 listening requirements, 8.30.6.1 network power broadband communication cables shall be listed and marked in accordance with 8.30.6.1a or b. Network power broadband communication have a temperature of not less than 60 degrees Celsius. Temperatures shall be marked on the jacket of the network powered broadband communication cables. that have temperature rating exceeding 60 degrees Celsius. A is network power broadband communication medium power cables. Network power broadband communications medium power shall be factory assembled cables consisting of jacketed coaxial cable, jacketed combination of coaxial cable and multiple individual conductors, or a jacketed combination of an optical fiber cables and multiple individual conductors. So the insulation for the individual conductors shall be rated 300 volts minimum. So ito yung cable should be marked in accordance with 3.10.3.17. So number 1 is type BMR shall be listed as being suitable for use in a vertical run in a shaft or from floor to floor, and shall also be listed as having a fire resistant characteristic. So BM shall be listed as suitable for general purpose use with the exception of riser and plenums, and shall also be listed as fire resistant. BMU shall be jacketed and listed as being suitable for underground use. So yung BMU is for underground, yung BM is general purpose, yung BMR is sa vertical runs. Network power broadband communication, low power cables. So yan, shall be ano rin siya, factory assembled consisting of jacketed, katulad lang din siya nung sa taas. So sa 1 is type BLP. Type BLP cable shall be listed as being suitable for use in ducts, plenums, and other spaces for use for environmental air. So fire resistant din siya, low smoke producing characteristic. BLR for vertical runs in shaft from floor to floor shall also be listed as having fire resistant characteristics preventing the carrying of fire from floor to floor. BL naman, general purpose use with the exception of riser and plenums. Fire resistant din siya. So yung BLP for environmental air, BLR is para sa general sa vertical run. Sa BL naman is sa may general use, exception is riser and plenums. So the 4 is type BLX. BLX limited use cable shall be listed as being suitable for use outside, for use in dwellings, and for use in raceways, and shall also be listed as being resistant to flame spread. BLU naman suitable for underground. So yung BLU, basta may use siya, underground yan. 8.30.6.2 grounding devices. Where bonding or grounding is required, devices used to connect a shield, a sheet, or non-current carrying metallic members of a cable to a bonding conductor or grounding electrode. Conductor shall be listed as part of the listed equipment. So that's the end of the article 8.30.